Vikings in all black, blue helmets moving from right to left. At the 22, shot gets up, hand off to Gibbs up the middle, the 25, the 30, a foot race to the 40, and the numbers the 50, far side 40, foot race with Winfield, far side 30, 20, 10, sideline 5, touchdown! The Lions have scored on a touchdown run by Jahmyr Gibbs, streaking for 78 yards.
Oh, I love to hear Kevin Harlan on a Monday night recap doubleheader, the last one of the year. And yes, I love to hear a little offense on this night. Jahmyr Gibbs from 78 yards out, part of a 24-9 Lions victory over the Bucs. Yes, on a Monday night that was full of defense. We're not going to start with the Texans and the Seahawks because, frankly, the Houston Texans do not deserve it. I want better for everyone who has stayed up late and is watching us live. I want better for Nick Shook. It's 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast, and we are going to do this thing. And yes, we're going to get to Jahmyr Gibbs and his incredible day, over 200 scrimmage yards. But I want to hear from you first, Shook, because I thought that was a impressive, defining defensive performance from the Detroit Lions, a team that goes into their bye week at 5-2, and I think has told us early this year, this defense, even if they got no names we recognize in the secondary, is something to be reckoned with.
Yeah, at this point in the doubleheader, it might feel as if that was ages ago, but I can tell you that as the countdown ran down and we're playing all that hype music and I'm dancing around, I had to be filled with energy for how late this show is, right? That's what the energy that the Lions brought to the field tonight. They're missing guys all over the place. Terron Arnold, not out there. Brian Branch, not out there. A number of other guys, not out there. Doesn't matter. We're going to see contributions from guys we've probably never even heard of, and some key plays from a well-traveled veteran like Arthur Mollett, who makes an incredible interception. I mean, what an inspired performance, shutting down one of the most explosive offenses in the league, absolutely putting the Buccaneers, a team that had made their reputation through the first 6 weeks on winning games in the final minute with crazy finishes powered by their offense. They put him in the boa constrictor squeeze. They squeeze the life out of him defensively, and they come away with a huge bounce back win in the very friendly confines of Ford Field to them and very hostile environment to the Buccaneers. A massive, massive bounce back for the Lions.
Love the early comments. Keep them coming. Someone saying that the Lions secondary tonight should be called the Legion of Whom, which I like, but I've heard it before over the years. It's sort of been a thing over the years of these no-name defenses. And yes, I'm going to go through some of the names because Brian Branch suspended. Kirby Joseph was out with an injury, and then they're starting 3 cornerbacks. So it just wasn't the ones we knew that were going to be out, DJ Reed, of course, and Terrion Arnold. But also their slot cornerback, Avonte Maddox, is out for this game. So here's who played. Amik Robinson. Who's T. Harper? Is it Thomas Harper? We got the Arthur Mollett you're talking about. We got Whiteside making plays all over the place. Their number 1 cornerback, and he's been good this year and has had an underrated career, I think. Rock Yassin actually got hurt in this game, so he left at one point. You got Hallett out there. I don't know who Eric Hallett is, but he's making plays. You got Lauren Strickland out there, and yes, they're going up against a banged-up Bucs wide receiver group that lost Mike Evans to a collarbone injury in this game. We'll talk more on that later. But they were just up in the faces of the Bucs all day, and I think you give credit to the game plan from Kelvin Shepard by the Lions. You give credit to the linebackers for the Lions, who have been fantastic all year. We've been talking about them, Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes and Anzalone, and then especially to that pass rush and Aiden Hutchinson, who puts up 11 pressures according to PFF. I think starting to put together a case just with my eyeball test for a defensive player of the year type of consideration, at least midseason All-Pro. Those are more of the teams I'm thinking about now that we're about 6-7 games in. Just an awesome night where the Bucs couldn't get anything going. 8 first half drives shook for the Bucs. And it took until 25 seconds left for them to have a little mini drive to put some points on the board.
Yeah, and it was the results of the collective effort. You get 20 pressures from your front. That's a 37% pressure rate. That's how you knock Baker Mayfield out of his comfort zone. He's somebody who usually deals well when operating within chaos, but tonight he looked sped up the entire game. Once he lost Mike Evans, things got that much more difficult, and the Lions secondary was able to capitalize on that. They played cohesively as a defense. All the credit in the world to Kelvin Shepard, who clearly coached these guys up and had them prepared. When you lose that amount of defensive backs, typically your defense takes a massive step 2 or 3 backward, and you end up getting, shredded by an opposing offense, especially one of the caliber of the Buccaneers. Instead, you got plays being made by guys like Hallett. The only Hallett I know is Mike Hallett, the offensive line coach at Toledo, who recruited me when he was a head coach at D3 Heidelberg University way back in the day. I never heard of this guy before, but he's out here making plays tonight. And again, it's a testament to the resiliency of these Detroit Lions, and they were able to step into this game in which they should have struggled defensively on a night when Jared Goff did not look comfortable, and on a night in which 14 points at halftime didn't feel like enough, like they'd wasted their opportunity to maybe bury the Buccaneers. But no, the defense said, we're not dealing with that tonight. We're not letting that happen. 9 points is all the points you're going to get, Buccaneers. And those 14 points we scored in the first half, they would have been enough to win, because that's how well we're playing football right now.
Yeah, like you mentioned the missed opportunities in the first half. So you have a Jake Bates missed field goal during the first half. You have a Jared Goff fumble during the first half that killed the drive. And then you had a 4th down fail during the first half where they went for it and they didn't get a call on a throw to Tesla, which Goff maybe overheated a little bit, but I think it was a penalty and they didn't call it on the rookie. And so you're thinking, man, they should be up at least 17-0, maybe more than that. And then the Bucs get 3 points at the very end of the half on a short drive, and it did feel like, oh man, here come the Bucs again. They've done this again and again. And I don't want to move the goalposts and just point out how, like they're picking on the right tackle a little bit for the Bucs, who is a replacement, Charlie Heck. But this Buccaneers offense with those replacements put up 38 points in Seattle on one of the best defenses in the league, and for the most part have found a way to get it done. You mentioned Baker struggling, and he absolutely did. Pressure was a huge part of that. Let's actually listen to one of the key stops in the first half. I love a little Derek Barnes.
3 receivers right, 1 to the left. Mayfield's got it back and looking. Mayfield sidesteps, rolling left, pumps once. Now he's going to get hit, going to go down. Sacked back inside the 35-yard line. That defense converged on him. Derek Barnes wrapped him up and took him down.
Love that call. We always got to get our guy Dan Miller from WXYT on the call each and every week. And so, they were just smothering, and we'll get to the Jahmyr Gibbs and what you were talking about with Goff, but I just kind of want to stay on this side of the ball while we're here. It was a bad game from Baker from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the many reasons I hate the MVP conversation, everything like that. It's like, it's going to change a million times. And Baker specifically is a guy who is streaky. And you've seen a couple times this year where he did not start off the game well. I'm thinking of week 1 specifically. But the Eagles game too was like up and down. And then he finds it in the end, right, Shook? But tonight he never really found it. His eyes always seemed to be down, kind of seeing that pass rush. He was just a little skittish, kind of jumping out of the pocket early. Reminded me a little bit of the Browns, Baker Mayfield. I give more credit to the Lions than really getting on Baker, but it was just a bad night. It happens. Great quarterbacks have bad nights. And I just thought he missed a lot of throws. Even when he had a chance to make them, he wasn't getting his feet set, and he just missed a lot of throws tonight.
Yeah, I actually texted my buddy, diehard Buccaneers fan. I said, I don't think I've seen Baker this sped up like this since probably the 2020 divisional round game against the Chiefs. They lost in Arrowhead, which was a long time ago, but it just felt like that. It felt like the moment suddenly was massive, and as if he was struggling with the pressure of it, which was interesting. But I also don't want to excuse that, because I know that he's had a great year up to this point. He had a rough night tonight. People are going to have rough nights. He's also playing without Chris Godwin. He loses Mike Evans in the first half, which then proves crucial on those 4th down attempts in the fourth quarter when they have nowhere to go, because that's usually just a situation where he drops back and chucks it up to Mike Evans and he makes a play. That's just what they do. And he's also without Bucky Irving. We talked about the offensive line missing players. They've been missing guys up there, and they've been shuffling guys around for most of the season. So it all would make sense that they struggled. It's just that on the primetime stage against the Detroit Lions defense that we expect to have taken a step or two back because they're missing guys too, they flopped. Like they flat out offensively flopped all night. I'm not saying it's a concerning sign for them long term, but it is kind of, I don't know, it gives you a little bit of perspective, makes you reset, a little bit of humbling on a night like tonight where, maybe you're not invincible. Maybe this quarterback who operates outside of the pocket so well suddenly can't find those opportunities to get outside of the pocket and create with his legs. And it just reminds us that this is a long season and that these hot starts can kind of level out over time when you encounter this sort of resistance that the Lions presented tonight.
They've had such a tough schedule on top of the injuries that I really do think you have to think big picture that they've managed it really well. Still ahead in their division over, the Panthers and Falcons. I feel great about them winning the division still.
Definitely.
The schedule is tough after the bye. Relatively, it's like the Patriots, Bills, and Rams. And so that's actually the toughest probably stretch in the remaining part of their schedule. But actually compared to the teams they faced, it's not even as tough. And then it softens up down the stretch. So the Lions and Bucs both talked in this game, hey, this could be a game for seeding. We'll see. The NFC, there's a lot of good NFC teams. But I think overall big picture, they have to feel good. Unfortunately, the Mike Evans injury puts a cloud over the whole night. Emeka Egbuka ends up playing in this game and just didn't look 100%. I think powered through what was not 100% in terms of his hamstring, and he ends up with 4 catches on 12 targets tonight. I think most of that was Baker missing throws, but also maybe it's Egbuka not being as explosive, fighting for things. And long term, Todd Bowles confirmed after the game that Evans is expected to miss most of the year, is what he said. Broken collarbone, it depends how big of a fracture it is when you can come back. There might be a chance that he's back for the playoffs or something like that. We'll have to find out. But obviously a killer moment in the game. Like it was on what could have been like a 50-yard catch, and then he leaves. And I think the air got let out of them there. And it does lower the ceiling, I think, a little bit on this Buccaneers offense because you can't replace Mike Evans. And it's the end of that 1,000-yard streak. So pour one out to one of the cooler streaks, and obviously one of my favorite players to watch over the last decade.
Yeah, and a streak that was extended last year with a really cool moment, on the final play of the regular season. We'll always have that as well, but football is weird in that guys that you think will play forever, or maybe guys that are approaching the end of their career and you think we get one more season with them, suddenly it can just vanish. And that is the last you hear from them. I'm not saying that's the case with Mike Evans because I expect this to be a playoff team. And I think that he will be ready, probably, hopefully, to come back and contribute to them. But it is going to make the road a little bit more difficult for them. They've proven that they are good at overcoming these types of adversity so far. But I do wonder, like, where's your breaking point? Where's your critical mass with this? Having Egbuka on the field was important, but he obviously wasn't at 100%. You hope that Chris Godwin's able to come back soon. You hope that Jalen McMillan is able to come back from the neck issue that he's been dealing with since before the start of the season. They are a very resilient bunch. It's just that tonight it felt like it was too much to overcome combined with the performance of Detroit's defense. But Greg, we cannot leave this as a footnote. We cannot bury the lead. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay, let's get to it.
My God, what a night for the running back, huh?
He is so good that I think it's time for Who Delivered, presented by Uber Eats. It's Jahmyr Gibbs. You go over 200 yards from scrimmage, 136 and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and 82 yards through the air on 3 catches, and a few plays stand out to me. Of course, the 82-yard touchdown, which was, I think, the fastest a running back has run something like that this year in a few years on that touchdown. But also, there was an insane stop and start early in the game in the first quarter where Servassier Dennis just flew by him. And like any mortal would have flown by him. And I was just like, everyone's got their own style. And Bijan Robinson has some crazy stop and starts. But Jahmyr Gibbs has a certain sort of stop and start explosion that's just next level to me. So there was that play. There was the 4th down play where he just powers through 3 or 4 defenders. And I'm thinking, if David Montgomery has the ball in this play, all respect to him, there's no freaking chance he's going to get that play. And so you saw Jahmyr Gibbs on the goal line. I think he's tougher than people think. He really can do everything. And this game felt like it was coming for a while. They weren't consistent all night, but he hit some really big wow plays.
Yeah, you're talking about the 4th and 1 where the Buccaneers successfully string out the run. It was a perimeter run, and Gibbs just gets the first down off sheer will. Like, just there's no reason he should be able to clear the line to gain, and yet he does as he approaches the sideline, which kind of just illustrates the type of night he had. And the goal line run you talked about, he's a violent runner, more violent than you would think based on his build. But what really sets him apart in those situations is his vision, because there's like a little crease that opens up there that he hits. And then most running backs would get stonewalled there because there's 2 defenders waiting for him at the end of that little alley. And he spins right around him and falls in the end zone. That's what makes him special. Not only the fact that he's explosive and has incredible burst and top flight speed. It was the fastest speed reached by a ball carrier this season. That's the stat you were looking for according to Next Gen. But he also has phenomenal balance and vision. And when you combine all of that, as well as his ability to make a difference in the passing game, second play from scrimmage, he catches a 30-yard pass, which like keys their opening scoring drive. He can do it all. And I know that this is the best backfield in the NFL, but he is one of the best backs in the NFL too. And both things can be true. And it's a big reason why the Lions have had so much success offensively, even on a night, again, where their quarterback didn't look good.
Yeah, I think they are trying to manage the David Montgomery situation carefully. He's a guy they love. But the offense is just so clearly not as dynamic with Montgomery on the field. I also think it really is great long-term for Gibbs to not put too much pounding on. Like, even tonight where it felt like he was on the sideline too much, he ends up with 20 touches. So you're going to have Jahmyr Gibbs as fresh as possible. Like 20 touches is more than enough. So if you can pull that off, that's great. But ultimately, they're just a different team with him on the field. Hell, let's listen to another Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown. This was in the 3rd quarter, and to me, really helped put the game away.
From the 5 of the Buccaneers, Detroit has it 1st and goal. Goff under center. Gibbs the back, the snap, the spin, handoff. Gibbs knifing his way, spins in, breaks a tackle, touchdown Detroit. 5-yard touchdown run by Jahmyr Gibbs. His 2nd touchdown run tonight. And he vaults the Lions on top of the Buccaneers. 20-9, 4.5 to play in the 3rd.
Great blocking there. And I would say that the Lions offensive line is not what it once was. It's more inconsistent. When they look good, they look really good. But I don't think they're as consistent play after play. But Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is better than he's ever been. And yes, that was Who's Delivered, presented by Uber Eats. When football makes you hungry, get game day deals on Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. And so I bring up the offensive line to just kind of wrap it up here in this game. To get to what you were saying about Jared Goff and the offense, I think the offensive line is starting to affect him. And, he had a couple turnovers tonight, a very low PFF score, which did not surprise me, like 45 in this game. Baker was also very low, and I think that was warranted. But most of Goff's yardage came out of, really wide open Amon-Ra St. Brown on the first drive, and it dried up after that. They didn't do a lot. That touchdown drive was huge because it answered the one Bucs touchdown drive of the day, and then the defense took over. But it does feel like, if you wanted to be critical, Shook, big picture, we're 7 games into this season. I think Goff's best season in the NFL was 2023, right? When they got that close. That was the best their offense ever looked. I think that was the best Goff ever looked. Goff was still really good last year, but he was not as good as the year before. There were more down moments. He was still a top 10 quarterback. Excellent, but not as excellent. And then I would say so far this year, on balance, I think he's taken another, little step down. And I'm trying to be careful how I say it, because I still, if you're ranking him, I don't know where you have him in the QB index. He's still somewhere in the top 10 to 12. But I just think their passing game production, and Goff in particular, it's just like a slow decline. Can I say that, Lions fans? Is that allowed, or are you going to just get crazy on me?
No, you're fine with that. And we have 3 examples that would justify that. It'd be week 1 against Green Bay, last week against Kansas City, and today. And they all have similar themes in that 3 defenses that know how to get after the passer in a variety of different fashions. Jeff Hafley, Steve Spagnuolo, and then Todd Bowles dialing up tonight. Like, the reason that he was uncomfortable for a lot of the night is Todd Bowles did a great job of scheming up blitzes at the right time. Like, he's sending, safeties and defensive backs from sides where Goff never sees it coming, that sort of thing. And it's working. And that's something that they're going to have to adjust to. And I think with this offensive line, having two new guys at starting positions, including a rookie and Tate Ratledge, like, you're going to get better at that over time, but it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to need the reps and experience and also the examples to show on tape to your guys, hey, this is what is possible against this team or what we faced already. How can we correct that and improve and adjust to that? So they can get better over the course of the season. And I think that will help Goff. Goff is one of those quarterbacks, though, then we know this, that you have to block well for him to really succeed and use his arm talent, everything else. If you don't do that, and really you got to build out of the running game, which tonight it worked, but it didn't really carry over to the passing game. In most cases, against most opponents, if you build out of the running game, it will work because you'll balance out the offense enough, keep the defense on their toes. They're not going to be able to anticipate and dial up blitzes and just pin their ears back and come after you. But in games like this, especially early in the season, they're just going to struggle. They're going to struggle with adapting. So I think you're going to see this unit get better in the back half of the season, and Goff will probably play better. But he is a guy that very much needs an ideal situation that starts with the offensive line in order to reach his maximum potential. And we can just admit now, I mean, you lost, your starting center who was like a pillar of your franchise in Frank Ragnow. You're not going to be as good, and that's fine.
And they might improve throughout the course of the season. Shout out to Jonesy who says, y'all dedicated, respect. I mean, it's late here, but it's 152 for Shook. I love the energy that he is bringing. And the Goff thing makes me think sometimes the team that actually does get over the hump, this happens sometimes with Patriots teams, it happened with Colts teams. It's happened with, like the Aaron Rodgers team that broke through and won the Super Bowl. Like, sometimes it's the teams that you don't see coming the whole time. And to me, my biggest takeaway from tonight, and that's why I started the show, and really from the beginning of this season in the NFC, especially the NFC North, is I think the line's upgraded at defensive coordinator. I'm test driving this take.
I agree.
And I think this defense really has a chance because when they get healthier, they got Aleem McNeil back. We should have mentioned that. 45 snaps tonight. He was walking back those Tampa guards on some plays. He had a pass deflection. He made a real impact. Al-Qadim Muhammad had 8 pressures in this game.
Continues to play well.
I just think they might have something there if they can just get healthier on the back end, and they should, that they'll be a more complete team than the one that made it to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, and then certainly the one that just got decimated by injuries. And they're just, I love this Lions team, and I love that they're in the center of the NFL. There's a question, from one of the viewers right now, who's better right now, Packers or Lions? I'll let you answer, Shook.
I don't think the Packers have put together one complete game this year, and Matt LaFleur kind of alluded to that today when being asked about Aaron Rodgers, of all things, and their upcoming game against the Steelers, and I think he was accurate in that. They've had flashes. I think Jordan Love hasn't put together a complete game yet. Even the 40-40 tie, their defense, was a problem in that game. Their potential is maybe higher. We have less evidence to justify that, but the Lions, if I had to trust either team right now, I'm trusting the Lions for the reasons that Gregg just laid out. Like, Kelvin Shepard's doing a fantastic job as a first-year defensive coordinator. I wanted to joke, like, so are you saying he's like the 2026 head coach of the Tennessee Titans at this rate? Considering how often that they lose their coordinators. So if I trust either of these teams, the Lions right now, Packers may have the higher ceiling, but they haven't proven it yet.
Shepard does give a little Robert Saleh vibes in terms of, I think,
fired up on the sideline, getting in there with his guys, mixing it up.
You can just see owners seeing him on the sidelines, and he's jacked and he's fired up. So that reminds me of Saleh and just being like, I want that guy. That's a football guy. And
better phrasing, no all gas, no brakes thing whenever he takes a job, please.
Right. And he really is awesome because I definitely trust the Lions more at this point. I mean, the Packers could be great, but overall, there's another team we're just about to talk about in Seattle that's, I think, been as good or better than both of those teams. And the difference that the Lions have over the Packers is, man, you've got the culture. Tonight was a culture win. You're able to coach up and bring in guys. Some of them have been on the practice squad. Some of them are off the street, and you're able to put them out there And I love what they said to Troy and Joe, that like they told their players, like, this isn't just for us tonight. This is for you to show the rest of the NFL and make a career. Like, no one's ever heard of you. And they went out and did that. That's badass. Like, Packers, put together wins like that for a few years, and I would trust you more. And I just close the circle here on this Lions team. Second half of their schedule, they got Minnesota at Washington, and then they have a game against the Eagles. They have a game against the Packers again. They have an at Rams. There's just going to be so many days that the Packers, and the Lions, but especially the Lions, are just right there in the center of the NFL. And I know they didn't look great last week, and they got to get through their game next week before they get to their bye. But I think they've managed their schedule really well too after that first loss to get here at 5-2, and they're set up really well. All right, let's talk about another team that is set up extraordinarily well, that I think has played about as well as any team in the NFL this year, although they just play with their food like a little too much and strung out our Monday night so that we're going to be honking late into the night. Let's go to Seattle.
1st and 10 inside the 15. Looks, throws, fires to the end zone. Ball is caught. Touchdown! Seahawks! Dunking it over the bar is Jackson Smith-Njigba. And flags go down because you can't do that as he grabbed the bar, and that can make the whole goalpost wiggle and get out of alignment. But the touchdown stands. The 4th touchdown of the year for JSN from 11 yards out.
It was a journey, that call. And yes, it's been a journey for Jackson Smith-Njigba to go from the supposedly safe, solid wide receiver draft pick taken in the middle of the first round to a guy on Monday Night Football that I think said to America, I have been the best wide receiver in the NFL this year. That got them to a 14-0 lead, Shook, and they should have won by so much more than 27-19. But you got to give the Texans defense a lot of credit. I think we saw 4 really good defenses tonight. The Bucs defense played great too. Ultimately, the Seahawks offense did enough to win 27-19. And yeah, what the heck? Let's start with Jackson Smith-Njigba, because he finishes tonight not only with that touchdown, but with 8 catches, 123 yards. And no one's played better than him this year, and he's playing the best secondary in the league, and he is getting wide open and making just terrific hands catch, every type of catch you would want to see. What do you love when you're watching JSN do work?
Well, I actually just went and checked the stats real quick because I don't routinely check the leaders week by week. So those of you who think I just scanned the stats for QB Index, you're wrong. I wasn't even aware that Jackson Smith-Njigba was leading the league in receiving, but I'm aware now. And I'm aware after the performance that he had tonight. It's no surprise to me. He has been Sam Darnold's favorite target. They have produced touchdown connections like that one multiple times. That Buccaneers shootout a few weeks ago, you saw that happen. It happened again tonight. A big stone's throw from Sam Darnold, fitting it down the seam there to find Jackson Smith-Njigba. He can trust him because Smith-Njigba came to the NFL with a complete route tree, with plenty of experience gained and plenty of opportunity playing alongside the likes of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. He was ready. And yes, he didn't get going right away when he was sharing the receiving room with DK Metcalf. But guess what? You know why the Seahawks traded DK Metcalf? Because they knew what they had in JSN. And now he's proven it in his first year without him. And Sam Darnold loves him. I could sit here and talk about him for days. But what I really love about this team more than anything is the courage that they had to deviate from the roadmap that most people thought was laid for them with Geno Smith, with the old regime that they had. They get Mike McDonald in there in the first year. He makes an offensive coordinator change. He goes to Clint Kubiak, and they decide, you know what, blow it up. Let's get the quarterback that fits our offense best. Let's take the swing and the big risk on Sam Darnold, and it is paying off. He is a perfect fit for how they want to run their offense, not just JSN, but also how they like to build out of the run, how they like to have the quarterback with his back to the line of scrimmage. Darnold's owning it. And yes, they only won by 8 points tonight, but the offense's potential and their production continues to be visible on a week-by-week basis. It's just that they ran into a defense that managed to keep the Texans in the game when they didn't deserve to be in the game, and they get another win that they deserve. Seahawks are one of my favorite teams to watch in the NFL right now, and it's for reasons like that.
I totally agree, and these teams that are surprisingly dominant so far this year. Seattle entered this game number 1 in DVOA. I don't know if the Colts, pass them after this week potentially, but they're the number 1 offense. The thing I love about surprise teams like this is, okay, you get to this point in the season, and you're like, these teams are going to be around. They're going to be a big part of this season, and they're now elevated to, if the Seahawks are in primetime, if the Colts are in primetime, although they're not much, but they'll be in some big 425 spots because they're playing so well. Now that feels like a big game, and can they start passing these new tests? And the Texans are not a complete team. They're a mess on offense. But this was a test for the Seahawks offense. And I think they, I'd give them a B-, C+ in terms of their offense. But they turned the ball over 4 times. Like, we can't go too crazy about them in this game.
Right.
But they also were facing an incredible Texans defense. And it's a reminder, like, all these teams that are built around defenses, like, you better have, at the very least, like, an explosive offense to complement it. The Broncos, I know they're 5-2, but they really don't. The Vikings certainly don't. The Browns obviously don't. The Texans obviously don't. So a lot of these defense first teams don't have the type of playmaker that JSN and, yes, Sam Darnold is. And you're right, I'll wear it. I can't remember being more wrong about a take I was, very confident in than the move from Geno to Darnold being a downgrade. And I'm glad you brought up the scheme, because he does fit this scheme really well. And he's taken everything that Kevin O'Connell taught him in Minnesota and everything that he learned there. And I think you have to give him more of the credit, because he's taken it to another level. That some of the throws he made tonight early in the game, I know he made a couple mistakes late, were awesome. You don't need him to be perfect. Kind of like Daniel Jones doesn't need to be perfect. You just need him to make enough difference-making plays. And these are not easy completions that Darnold's pulling off.
Yeah, but what really warms my heart watching Darnold succeed with the Seahawks this year is, you go all the way back to his days at USC, and I think about that Rose Bowl performance against Penn State, and that was like his breakout game in college. And he made some spectacular throws in that game. I mean, it's a memorable one for USC fans, whether you're a Sam Darnold fan or not. And we didn't really get to see that in his NFL career until moments last year. But he was throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. He was playing behind a rock-solid offensive line. They had a good running game. You could, blame it on all those other things and not give him the credit. He's earning the credit now. Like, that touchdown pass to JSN was one, but he also dropped one perfectly in the bucket to him down the sideline later. He makes it routinely from week to week. He's making throws like this. This is the talent that always existed in Sam Darnold, that he needed the right situation for it to fully show. And it makes them such an enjoyable watch, like I said. And it also just makes me happy that somebody who has been around the NFL for a while now, was at some very low points in New York and Carolina, was a back in San Francisco, only got the job in Minnesota because JJ McCarthy got hurt, is now finally getting a real opportunity, the real faith from an organization, and coming through. And yes, I know he made some mistakes. He fumbled in the end zone. He threw a pick down the middle. That was a great play by Derek Stingley. They turned the ball over 4 times. I don't care, because he's still making the plays and propelling this team forward. And combined with the defense that Mike McDonald's overseeing, they lack consistency in the run game. They're still one of the most consistent and one of the teams that I believe in the most through 7 weeks now. And I've been on this train for about a month now, because I don't think they're going away anytime soon. And a lot of it's because of Sam Darnold.
A lot of it. It's Sam Darnold supported. It's Darnold. It's the system. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think is just so subtle, such a good route runner, just is so complete and is more talented than people realize. It's a really good tackle combination in the running game and in the passing game, helping him out. Although, the running game's been a little inconsistent, and more than anything, it's the defense supporting it all. Like, this is a top 5 defense. I expected it to be, and it absolutely is. And we saw it tonight. Before we get to that, though, you mentioned that great throw, the whole shot to JSN over Kamari Lassiter in this game. And he also had a throw to Cooper Kupp in the first half, where what I loved was he's done really well this year, just the subtle pocket movement to move to his left, because the Texans pass rushers did win quite a bit tonight, and they pressure him almost right away, and he shuffles up and to his left. It's not an easy throw to make, and he just does it very naturally before hitting Kupp down the field for a throw. There was a throw in the red zone early where he gets it to Elijah Arroyo, and Aikman pointed this out. I was thinking the same thing too, where he gets to like his third read so fast, and that's what he's doing. He's generally processing really quickly. Now, there were exceptions on this day, and that one of the exceptions was the sack he took in the end zone. Yeah, let's give some love to the Texans defense and Will Anderson. Let's take a listen.
7. Darnold in the gun, calling for the ball. Here's the snap. Darnold at the goal line, pumping. Darnold in trouble, and Will Anderson has him down. The ball is out, and Will Anderson has it for a touchdown. Houston scores. The Terminator.
That was midway through the third quarter. It was 17-6 at the time. That was Mark Vandermeer on KILT. And this game just felt like it should have been over. So to go over it there, okay, the Texans defense scores a touchdown way before the Texans offense scores a touchdown. The Seahawks are going in for points in the first half, and they let Cooper Kupp throw a pass. Cooper Kupp is now 0 for 5 as a quarterback, Shookie, in his career with 1 interception. I don't think they should continue that. And, then they played pretty well for the most part on offense otherwise in the game. But then in the fourth quarter, had another interception with about like 8 minutes to go, rather, that Stingley play that you mentioned. And so they just kept like giving the ball away. There was another fumble in there mixed in that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but it was just like they kept just shooting themselves in the foot on a night where they almost had like a safety in the first half that should have been called, and they almost had a defensive touchdown until they fumbled the ball. That was the other one that I was thinking of, like where they fumbled the ball going in for a defensive touchdown. So like this game could have been like 41-9 in another world.
Yeah, it was a catch fumble by Elijah Arroyo that was recovered by Aziz Al-Shire. But yeah, that's what made the fourth quarter so painful. And maybe this is the natural like transition point, talking about the Texans and how disgusted I am with them.
Yes,
because,
please.
Oh my God, you forced 4 turnovers. You gave your offense so many opportunities. An offense, mind you, that put you behind the 8 ball multiple times in the first half by turning the ball over on downs in plus territory for the Seahawks. Like you're asking your defense to carry the entire organization on its back on the road in Seattle, and they're doing it. They're largely doing it throughout this game. And you get down to the 1-yard line and you can't punch it in. And I would not be shocked. I'm not a fan of people losing their jobs, but I would not be shocked if they made a change at offensive coordinator, because the way that they handled the goal-to-go situation in the fourth quarter, the way that they needed a heroic throw from C.J. Stroud to Woody Marks to even get in the end zone in the fourth quarter later, which at that point you're like, God, I wish they would have converted the 1st and goal from the 1 situation, but they didn't. And the way that they handled 4th and short earlier in the game by going away from C.J. Stroud, and when Nico Collins was out on the field at that time before he left the game, by pounding it into a brick wall twice with an offensive line that we've known is bad, that you've had it proven to you multiple times over last year and the first part of this season is bad. It is indefensible. It is disgusting. It is criminal to allow a team with a defense this good, that is that opportunistic, to not cash in basically at all in a game that is very winnable solely because of your defense. It drives me insane.
The thing that kills me is they're coming off the bye week, and I know it's a tough matchup coming off a bye to go to Seattle. But your offensive coordinator had 2 weeks to prepare for this, Nick Caley. They were trying to build off some positivity they had in the last 5 quarters before the bye, and they got their pants pulled down. Like right away, there's just free rushers all over the place. Right away, they're throwing screen passes to Nick Chubb, and it's going nowhere. Like right away, even when C.J. Stroud would make a nice play in the pocket, Nico Collins, of all people, is dropping a good pass that could have gone for a long play. Nick Chubb dropped a pass. Nico Collins, unfortunately, left late in the game to have a concussion check. So that's concerning for them. But the coaching was so brutal. And you mentioned the short yardage situation late in the game. They only scored a touchdown in this game because they got 14 drives, Nick. I mean, that is a preposterous number of drives, including 8 in the second half. So it just took their defense getting the ball back to them over and over and over again. And finally, they barely got one in what wasn't quite garbage time, but it was 2 minutes left when they scored, and it was basically over then. And that wasn't even the beginning of the short yardage struggles. They had a drive stop in the first half because they couldn't get a 3rd and 1. And then earlier I think it was the third quarter, they go back to back trying to pick up 1 yard, and the broadcast booth is just praying, and they're telling them, don't just run it. Don't just run the same running play again. They're loading up the left side. They got 7 blockers for 8 defenders. And what do they do, Shooky? Let's take a listen.
4th down and a yard. Handoff Woody, left side, and he's not going to make it. He's going to lose yardage inside the 40-yard line. It blows up, and the Texans on 3rd and 4th and short can't get there and move the sticks, so they turn it over on downs.
You hear the emphasis in that call? The can't get there. It's like almost guttural. That's frustration coming out because they've watched this offense week by week, and they know that they just can't. And it boggles the mind that you would think that, oh, just because it's a short yardage situation, we're going to default to handing it off. They did this in the goal line later, too, where you're like, you're a yard away. QB sneak. I don't care how much you value your quarterback's health, and I understand he is absolutely essential to your hopes of being a competitive offense, but you're obviously not supporting him in any other situation. You have 1 yard to get, shorten the distance between you and the line to gain. Please just make it simple, because right now it was miserable. I tweeted during the fourth quarter, I was like, the misery I'm feeling, I have no dog in this fight. I can't imagine how Texans fans feel watching this offense. It's terrible.
They had a 20% success rate, by the way, on design runs. So as bad as the passing game is, like, I get why they go so pass heavy, because the running game just feels stillborn. It's brutal. The offensive line strategy, which I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt in the offseason, and Arante Ursary, the rookie, is really struggling. It's tough. But when you watch those plays, one thing that you see, Shook, and you saw this on the near safety of CJ Stroud on, what was that, their first drive of the game, actually, where he's running backwards. But there's 4 Seahawks converging on him. There's like no Texans blockers in the field. And that's my takeaway. If you haven't watched the Seahawks defense enough, look, the Bucs got them. That'll happen to great defenses sometimes. They had a bad day. But what really gets me is just the depth. There's just so many different types of players. DeMarcus Lawrence had a big game. He's great. Boye Mafe is a terror off the edge. Byron Murphy, like, blowing up screens, is a very athletic defensive tackle. You know, they're still missing guys. Devin Witherspoon wasn't out there tonight. Julian Love in the back end wasn't out there tonight. Like, they just have different levels to. Ernest Jones has been great at linebacker. Like, I haven't mentioned Uchenna Nwosu, who's one of their. On any given play, 2 guys, 3 guys can win, and what a great way to play team defense.
Yeah, plus there's the potential of rookie safety Nick Emanwari, who's starting to come around and is starting to make some plays. He looked a little lost in the first month of the season, but I think he's starting to get his feet underneath him. He made some plays tonight as well. And, like, there was a play where Leonard Williams drops in coverage, and they throw a check down to, I think it was Braxton Berrios they had lined up back there, and he chases him down in the flat. Look, I know Leonard Williams is a freak athlete. He has been since his days at USC. But to watch a guy of that size move with that quickness, and he was so light on his feet laterally, and make a play like that, it was still blew my mind. And I know he's got that potential and has had it for years. That's the strength of their defense. And it's not, when I complain about the Texans offense, it has nothing to do with how I feel about the Seahawks defense. Because, again, both things can be true. You can have terrible offensive strategy and also be playing against a good defense. This defense is just getting better by the week. And they're another big reason why I think, again, this Seahawks team is not going anywhere. They're going to be hanging around. They're going to be a player in the NFC all year long. Yep.
They had 6 different Seahawks with run stuffs in this game. So that's like stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. It's like I was trying to say, it's a spread the wealth type of defense. It's impressive. They're number 1 in DVOA. You know, I don't know what power rankings is supposed to judge. You know, are they the most likely team to make the Super Bowl? No, because the NFC is so deep. I think, on balance, if I had to choose a team that's played the best, most complete brand of ball, through 7 weeks in the NFC, my choice would be the Seahawks. Now, they're in a really tough division. They're tied, a 3-way tie with the 49ers and the Rams at 5-2. It's obviously a really good conference with other contenders, 2 of whom played tonight, and you have the defending champs. It's wide open, but they're in that mix, and hopefully that can be some solace to Seahawks fans on a night that will go down in Seattle sports infamy, really, and it'll always be this footnote that the Seahawks played last night. If you were watching the Monday Night Football broadcast, it was crazy to see the crowd shots of all the Mariners fans that were at the Seahawks game, and just the heartbreak kind of wash over them as they realize what happened in the ALCS. If you're no overseas listeners and have no idea what we're talking about, the Seahawks played tonight at the same time as the Seattle Mariners, who lost Game 7 trying to make the World Series for the first time in their franchise history, and they gave up a 3-run homer in the 7th and ended up losing a great baseball game.
Yeah, 4-3. And look, as somebody who grew up in Northeast Ohio and lives in Cleveland, I understand the torture of watching your team lose on the doorstep of the World Series. I understand the torture of watching your team blow a 3-1 lead in the World Series. But Seahawks fans, Mariners fans, you're a loyal bunch. You got a big win on the NFL field tonight. I know it doesn't matter as much as Game 7 of the ALCS did, but you're a good group. You'll be back next year, hopefully, for the Mariners.
You do feel for like real deal fans, because it's one of those things that it's never happened.
Greg, I watched.
They've been around for a while. They've never got there. It's like if the Lions lost, which they did in the NFC Championship. It's a lot like that loss. You had a big lead. You're so close. And they have the idea that if they can just make it once, even that might be enough. That would be one great thing to celebrate, and you can't even have that.
I watched the Cleveland Guardians get eliminated at home in the playoffs in person each of the last 2 years. And I also have one triumph in my life as a sports fan. It was when the Cavaliers came back from 3-1 in 2016. I understand your pain, guys. I do.
You had to watch Troy O'Leary bash like 8 RBIs in a Game 5 Cleveland Red Sox in like 2002. That's not.
Why would you do that to me when I was a kid? Why would you do that to me?
Sorry, that was at the time one of my favorite memories. Pour one out for the big dumper in the great Mariners season. Okay, I want to bring up something crazy, which is that our great producer Chris Babona put a poll up of everyone crazy enough to be watching. If you're on the East Coast, it's 2:18. Good job by you, Shucky, and we'll let you go to sleep.
We're digging deep.
we put a poll up. Who would you start your team with at wide receiver? Now, I said that JSN has been the best wide receiver in the league so far this season. The fact that more people voted for him over Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson to start a team with is absolutely outrageous, and the biggest example of recency bias I've ever seen. Or maybe, it's just Seahawks fans watching.
Time zone bias. Yeah, because what is it, 11:18 on Pacific time zone? So we get more Seahawks fans in here. That's what's going on. You guys are nuts. I would definitely play Ja'Marr Chase over him, but he's having a great year. Your game recognizes game.
I think if I was starting a franchise, he is definitely in the top 5 now among receivers. The thing is, to be a great like Chase and Jefferson is, and they're having great seasons, by the way, too. You have to do it year after year. Those guys are first ballot Hall of Famers in the middle of their primes. And so you just got to see it more for JSN. But if he stays at this level for 2 more years, sure. Yeah, he's going to be right there. We will be right back on this show sooner than you can even imagine. Colleen Wolfe and I will be in the studio. Really looking forward to that on Tuesday. And in the meantime, we appreciate everyone who stayed up with us, and everyone just can say goodbye to doubleheaders. Nick Shook, maybe forever. This could be it. How will you celebrate the end of doubleheaders in the NFL on Monday night?
By watching one more game from this week and going to bed. And I actually understand why they're going away. Tonight, I think, is the perfect example of why they're going away.
Yeah, that was a tough game to end on if it is over. And they say it's gonna be over if that NFL Network ESPN deal goes through. All right, that's too much. We'll go into the night and we will see you on Tuesday. Looking forward to it.